Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Dr. Salvatore Forcina. Say hi.
Hi, how are you?
I am great on this. We were just talking about, before we started recording, that we just missed connections in Orlando, Florida, and it's beautiful and sunny here. I love it.
Yes, indeed. Here is, I'm in northern New Jersey. It's sunny, but this morning was 44, so for me it's cold.
Oh, goodness. Yes, that's pretty cold for me too, being from South Texas. So tell us a little bit about what you do, Dr. Forcina.
Sure. I was born during World War II in Italy, in between Rome and Naples, and the Scauri. This is an area in which on one side is the mountain, the other side is the ocean, and in between is a valley with the Appian Way that was built 312 before Christ. And that is where my town is. And what happened was during World War II, the Germans were north of that area and the Allied were in the south. And so the Germans had planted many mines in that valley, and they were people suffered tremendous casualty, destruction, misery. And so reason why my father was a Marine at that time for the Italian Navy. He lost his brother, he lost his brother-in-law, and my grandfather, for many months, had disappeared, and in the confusion, nobody knew if he was alive or not. So imagine people have stress, anxiety, misery, hunger, you name it. There was a reason why my father in 1947 went to Argentina with a group of workers because he in Italy he was working the ceramic, making tiles, and so he went to Argentina, and he considered that at that time Argentina didn't have any wars, there were plenty of food. It was at the end of the world, really, at that time. It's not like there was no type of communication we have today. There were telephone, radio, whatever. Okay, so it was So 2 years after, my mother, me, and my brother. I was 8 years old in 1949, and my brother was less than 2 years old. We joined my father in Argentina, and we started our life there. To leave your roots, to leave your family, to go at that time, going at the end of the world, really. Yeah. It was no an easy task. Besides that, you go to another land in which at that time, people were not so open like today with immigration. So you were really at the bottom of the scale, really. And so that was our life.
Oh, wow. That is fascinating. So what age did you immigrate over there with your family?
I was 8 years old.
Oh, 8 years old. Fantastic.
Yeah. So what happened? My father, he was a worker. And so at that time, the Italian family, they had many kids, poverty. And so the kids, they went from 1 grade, 2 grades only in school. They didn't have the possibility to study. There was no way that they were going to accomplish something like. Your destiny was written before you even born. If you were in that area, in some way, your destiny was written before you even were born.
Oh, wow.
In another way, and it's sad, but in another way, there was no way you're going to increase or jump or be somebody. And so
Yeah.
that's my father understood that. So he has one or two grades, but he had to, as a children, they had to pitch in, help the family to survive. They were difficult time at that time, like today. So, but my father has something that he read all his life. And then, and in a simple way, he used to communicate to me, he wanted for me to study, because the conception or the understanding at that time was, if for you to become somebody, you had to study. You had to have some knowledge, and you had to have, before you name, you had to have some sort of a professor, lawyer, teacher, priest, or judge, whatever, doctor, whatever. So that was his obsession. And so what happened was that he wanted for me to study. But at the age of 8 years old, I don't think too many kids at that time, they were looking for study. And so the situation in some way changed when a group of priests came to the church not too far away from where my parents lived. And those one day I was talking with one of the priests, and he was showing that they have this place, school, where they have kids that could play soccer, they jump in the river, they were swimming in the river, there was a pony, they ride a pony. And so for me, that we didn't have anything. For me was something very special. So I asked my father if I could go to the school. So my father saw this opportunity to say, well, of course, I can become somebody. And so I went to the school. I was there for 7 years. 7 years. I was 11 years old when I left my parents, and there was a boarding school. I saw my parents once a year.
Oh, wow.
Once a year. So psychologically, you had to imagine a child 11 years old separated from the mother. Was not easy. Besides that, the school, there was a lot of discipline. They were run by German priests. There was a lot of discipline. And the main thing is that you had to study and pray. And nobody showed me that before.
Yeah.
So I was looking for the entertainment to have a good time. But of course, I heard this was a big change for me. And I had very difficult time in the beginning. Very difficult time. But eventually, for curiosity, little by little, I start to imitate the other kids. They would start to study and read and this. I became very fan of history. The whole history. So, and I start to read and this and that. And eventually, so I spent 7 years there. And I studied the classics. And I like very much, I learned the classic music. Opera, concerto, this. So that's why.
I'm a musician too. That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we can talk about that because eventually my father-in-law, he was a dean at the Academy of Philadelphia Performing Arts.
That is amazing. And I heard so many awesome things. I was taking notes as I was listening. And one of the questions I think you might have answered for me, but it was interesting to me that your father was like, no, in order to change your lot in life, I want you to be something different. I want you to be somebody you need to study. And I was curious about whether you faced any kind of pushback or peer pressure to just do what you were meant to do and not have aspirations beyond where you were born. But then that sounded like when you went to boarding school, the pressure was to study and to get better.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. So, yeah. But you see what happened at that age, at the early age. First of all, I didn't have any preparation. I didn't have there was no introduction. There was nothing. I was just at the mercy of whatever happened. You live day by day. And so... And so really, my parents, mostly my mother, she never knew really my suffering, my inside, the thing that, because listen, I accomplished something in life, but that for A to B, there was a very tortuous road up and down, and there were many moments in which I was ready to quit. In more than one occasion, because life was nothing was smooth for me.
I think it was interesting to me too that it sounded like you didn't really understand what your dad was saying about studying, but then you saw kind of the pretty packaging of the outside of the school, right? The playing and the games and the stuff like that. And that's what initially made it attractive to you. And I think that's an interesting parallel to what we see happening so often in business is like, I see this person over there having fun or traveling or speaking on stages or whatever it is that they're doing that we think is fun. And we don't see, like you said, the suffering that happened behind that to get to that point.
How you reach that. Yeah, no, that's what happened with me. You see, but anyhow, so eventually I want to go. When I studied in Argentina, eventually I left the school there. I go. What happened was that when I was with the priest, that the grades were not recognized by the states, so I had to take an exam during the summer. I had to take an different exam, and eventually I had to repeat 1 year because there was not enough time for me to take more exams. And so you see, already you have another. Already when I went to Argentina, I didn't speak Spanish. So what happened was in second grade. When I went to Argentina, they put me in no first grade, inferior. It was a grade inferior. So I lost another 2 years there.
Oh, goodness.
just to give you an idea. So anyhow, so what happened was that then I had to take an exam, and eventually my friends, they were going to university, and my friends, they were all. I was the son of the immigrant at that time, very without, immigrant at that time. Like I said, you're in the bottom of the scale. Okay, so but my friends, they were son of the lawyer, doctor, the influential people. And so they were going to university. So my father one day say, so what are you going to do now? I said, well, I would like to go to university because my friends are going there. And I said, well, my father, my mother also said, well, they knew the limitation. And so they said, well, just to give you an idea of the psychology, at that time, they said, well, son, you go to university. We're going to help the best we can. But you know what? The university school of medicine was 7 years. Years studies. So what happened is, you know what? You go 1 year, 2 years, and eventually, if you cannot proceed, whatever, okay, at least you can tell your friends or whatever. You know what? I had 2 years, 1 year university. You see what I'm saying? The psychology at that time, the happiness is come with a small thing, without looking at the long goal to reach there was no such a thing. You cannot, and for me, there was no such a thing that you had to look beyond, because you cannot make any plans. You live day by day.
I love that so much. And I think it's such a good message for everyone listening, because especially in today's, kind of workaholic culture, there's always this measuring stick that we seem to be up against, and we always find ourselves falling short, right? There's the goal over there, and I haven't hit it yet. And here are all the reasons why I suck as a human being, because I haven't hit that goal. But I love what you did, because that's, you and your family, they encouraged you to, take it one day at a time, but also celebrate the accomplishments that you have, even if you didn't hit the end goal. I love that.
Yes, because the ambition was limited ambition. We all have ambition.
Yeah.
But somebody want to be a millionaire, somebody else is just happy to have a small toy.
Yes.
You know, so the ambition is different. You know.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that too, because not everybody wants the same goal, and it's okay to want what you want and be satisfied with what you have. I think that's a fantastic reminder, because I know, especially in the online business world, there's always this pressure to have $10,000 months or $1 million business, or,
Sure, competition,
But if you've never thought about what you actually want out of the efforts that you're making or what you'd be happy with, that's a mistake.
You know what happened at that time? I was realistic. Realistic. I saw my surrounding, my limitation. For instance, when I went to university, my parents couldn't afford to buy books for me. So now what happened was we were renting a house, typical old Spanish house with several rooms. And we were like 10, 12 different students. We're sharing the place. So like I said before, my friends, they were well off. They have money. And the parents send them money and they dress well. You know, it was very different than me. But you know what? I never felt envious. I was never, I never thought, no, because but you know what happened? My desire was, I want to be like them. I want to be like them. But in order, see, this when my father talked to me, start to open up and start to say, in order for you to be like them, you have to work hard. You have to climb the mountain. I know you don't have the right shoes, the right clothes, the right gloves, okay? That mountain is very sharp. There are stones there. You know, you're going to get hurt. But that's life. If you want to accomplish that, you just have to do that. And if you cry, nobody's going to listen to you anyhow.
I think that's fascinating, because there is such a fine line between envy and inspiration. And I see so many people kind of getting, and it's an attractive trap, right? They have everything that they need and it's going to be so easy for them and woe is me. But you could also flip that coin on purpose, right? You can decide to look at those people and what they've got and aspire to be like them and figure out how to bridge that gap between you and them. I think that's brilliant.
So what I was saying to you is that, so my friend, I study in La Plata, University of La Plata in Argentina, close to Buenos Aires. So what happened on Friday afternoon, my friends, they used to go to Buenos Aires and spend the weekend there. They have a good time, come back on Monday during the day, whatever. Okay. So that was the time when I borrowed their books.
Brilliant.
I borrowed their books. I locked myself in. I borrowed their books, and I studied, take notes or whatever. So, and that's the way you start you know.
Talk about creative problem solving. I mean,
well, I have the ambition. I want to be somebody, but I don't have the mean.
Yeah.
And the worst thing for me was I never have a guidance. Nobody guide me. My parents care about me, but they don't have the knowledge. So I had to make a decision by myself. And in doing the decision myself, I didn't have nobody. See, here you go to college and they tell you, why you want to be a doctor? Okay, you have to take this subject, the other subject, this, do this, do that, do that. No, I was in my own. My life, I compare my life like going through a tunnel, a dark tunnel. So now this dark tunnel, at the end, there is a dim light at the end. And I reach the end, there is a sign that says dead end.
Oh my gosh.
And so what do?
Wow.
You had to come back and you had to look again for another. Yeah, that's the way I compare my life. So that's why I try to explain to you that the up and down and the future You don't know. I didn't never know what was going to be my future because everything was uncertain.
Mm-hmm. You can only make the best decision that you can with the information that you've got right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you see, for the future, for the kids today, at least in this country, in the United States, in most of the area, they have the advantage. They can have a coach, they can have a teacher, they can have, if they are lucky, they have the parents, they're interested in them, friends or whatever, communication, you name it.
Yes.
You name
Tremendous advantage.
When we were in the class of histology, where they used the microscope to look at, there was one microscope for 15, 20 students.
Wow.
And here, the difference here, you have one student with a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and at that time, I remember you could not sit down and look at the specimen. No, you're standing up, bending over, and somebody else is pushing you because somebody else. Wow, that's the way. Listen, it's sad. It's sad, but that's the way we, at least for me, the way I had to study. And so that's why at the end, when you accomplish something and you go, that's why I wrote the book, because what happened, all those memory, all the thing, maybe can be something good for somebody else. Because
absolutely.
I don't want to be selfish. I want to give something back.
I'm so glad that you were sharing your story. And obviously, I mean, spoiler alert, I introduced you as doctor. So we made it through medical school. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your specialty and
well, I'm a surgeon.
Led up to the book?
Yeah.
Awesome.
After 7-year medical school, I had to tell you something that after I finished medical school, I went to Italy. I want to specialize in Italy because in Argentina they had a possibility. So I went there and I had to wait to take exams. And then, but I saw the environment was no different than Argentina, and the future was, I didn't see any future there. So while I was there during the summertime on the beach, I find some distant relative of mine saw me, knew about me, and he suggested for me to come to the United States. So what happened, I have family here, a cousin, an uncle, an aunt, and so I wrote to them and they invited me to come here. I came here, of course. For me, this was, I said, wow, I ended up in heaven because of what compared with what I had seen before. But now, another surprise. First of all, I didn't speak English. I was 28 years old and I didn't speak English. My degree was not recognized in this country.
Oh, wow.
And I never saw I was 28 years old and I never saw multiple choice in my life.
Oh, my goodness.
And I had to take this tremendous exam that if you pass that exam, you were allowed not to practice, excuse me, not to practice, but to apply to a special program at the hospital to specialize. I chose surgery and specialize for 5 years. I don't have to tell you what I had to go through to pass those exams, the nightmare I have. Still today, honestly, sometimes I have nightmare because in that mountain, I was a grain of salt, and that mountain was tall, a mile high.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So anyhow, eventually I passed. I applied to the hospital, and so what happened? Now I come to you talking about musician. I'm going to tell you about my future father-in-law.
Yes.
All right. So what happened was that I came back from Argentina because my brother got married. Meantime, we were working with different teams, groups of doctors, the different specialty. And I ended up with this doctor that have operated my father, what will be my future father-in-law, Clemente Petrillo. All right.
Okay.
And like I said before, he was the dean of the College of Performing Art in Philadelphia. And he was a concertist, pianist, classic. And so what happened, I was in the operating room, whatever, and there was a note there that I had to go to the floor, surgical floor, to see this patient. I went to see this patient, and I remember him well. He was sitting at the bedside. He was pale, he scared, big eyes, and the arm were black and blue, swollen, because he ended up with complications after the surgeries, and he couldn't eat. He had tubes all over. And so what happened was that they couldn't start the intravenous fluid. So what happened, I went there, and I introduced myself, and with the Italian name that he had, we started to speak Italian. And happened that he was, during the war, was in Italy, in the American Army, and he was in charge of rebuilding La Scala in Milan, the opera house. A big place. So that's why he was friend of Toscanini. They were friends of Toscanini. And so what happened was that we talk about music and this and that. And so suddenly he felt very relaxed. And so he said, okay, doctor, are you going to start the IV? So without realizing, I was lucky enough, the destiny, I would imagine, no? Because I guess I had to marry his daughter. So what happened was that I was able to get a vein, and he didn't even realize that. So from that day on, after God, I was second in command, you know? And so what happened, when he got better, he was invited to a special concert, private place, where it was Felipe and Ramon, Nigel Sonnenberg, musicians. And so he called me, and he said if I didn't mind to join the daughter to represent him and the wife to this place. So, of course, me coming from nowhere, and I went to in this place, Philadelphia, that was like a Versailles for me, you know. So that's how our relationship started, and eventually ended up getting married.
Oh, that is such a beautiful story. I love it for so many reasons, not the least of which is just following the path where it leads and doing the best that we can with what we've got, exactly like we talked about before. I feel like there is so much pressure in today's society to have all of the steps mapped out. I gotta get the career by this age. I gotta get the house by this age. I gotta get married by this age. And then we like beat ourselves up if none of that happens on the timeline. Yeah. But, just by following the steps and doing the best with what you could. And I wrote down and circled connecting as a human, right? Because it could be easy as a doctor to go in and be like, this is what I need you to do. Here's the very clinical step-by-step way. But you made him feel relaxed. You made him feel connected. And not only did that help you serve him better and help him with his healing journey, it helped you meet your partner.
Yeah, no, he trusted me. So now going back to I started as a general surgeon, and I did trauma, and I did vascular, peripheral vascular, bypass, aneurysma. And the last 15 years of my career, my career was more than 40 years. I was practicing, doing surgery. I ended up being the chief of surgery in 2 hospitals in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
2 hospitals. And I, at the last 15 years of my career, I did mostly advanced laparoscopy, doing surgery through a small hole with a special instrument, and you had a video, and that specialized in that. That,
I mean, what a life. That's fascinating.
Well, it was not easy. Easy. Besides that, now, let me tell you, when I finished my training, everybody was telling me, Sal, where are you going to practice? You got to go to Midwest or whatever, someplace, more rural area. I said, but my wife could not follow me. So, so we end up in northern New Jersey, like a 10 miles from Columbia University.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So one of the attendants said, sir, you're going to starve. Who is going to come to you? This and that. You know what? He was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It took time. It took time. You know what happened was I applied to the hospital but nobody knew me. Nobody knew me. So you're nobody. So what happened was I was sitting in the hospital waiting and this and that, and talking about up and down, up and down. You know, you're a
Mm-hmm.
human being too, because
Yeah.
you look at your past and you say, when is going to start? When I'm going to have an end to this misery? You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like I said, nothing came easy, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
but my luck was that one day the chief of surgery need help in the
Mm-hmm.
operating room. So I went to help him with the surgery, and I guess he saw something on me that he was impressed. And for that day on, his office used to call my office very often. And I
Oh,
start
wow.
to, and now what happened was that when he was away, I used to cover him. I used to cover
Wow.
him, his patient. But of course, I'm going to tell just an example of what happened. So one day, his office called my office. They want for me to see this patient. So I went to see this patient, and this gentleman was very sick. He had an infected gallbladder.
Mm-hmm.
He was having fever, pain. So I examined, explained everything to him. And you know what happened? It didn't take too long for me to recognize that between him and me, there was a barrier. There was a wall. There
Hmm.
was a wall. I can, it's nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's nature. This guy, young doctor with an accent, who the hell is he? He's
Mm-hmm.
going to operate on me. This is my life, whatever. You know. So anyhow, so I say, well, listen, think about that. Okay, doctor, I'm going to talk to my family, whatever. Okay. So I was worried about him because the type of, we end up with gangrene of the gallbladder, infection, the pus going to the circulation, and the septic shock. You name it.
Mm-hmm.
You have a big
Wow.
problem. The following morning, early before I went to the operating room, the first thing I went to the floor to see him. And to my surprise, he said, Dr. Forcina, this is my wife, this is my daughter. And I said, when are we going to do the surgery? I said, wow, gee, what happened from yesterday to today? Something happened.
Uh-huh.
I went to the head nurse, Joanna. I said, oh, Dr. Forcina, since you left yesterday, he didn't do nothing else. Anybody who was walking into a room or in the corridor, he was asking about you. Of course, I have good reputation by that time already,
Mm-hmm.
because the care I was renting, and what happened when the nurses called me, I was available, and if I had to go in the middle of the night, because part of the first of all, part of the way that I was responsible.
Mm-hmm.
With the priest, they gave me put into me the responsibility, you know. And that continued all my life. That they had to be on time and responsible, respectful, and and end up doing the surgery, and he did well, and so that's the way things started.
I love
But you
that.
see, there was all the time nothing was smooth.
Yeah.
That road I was walking, it wasn't smooth. There was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
twisting and bending up and down.
Yeah. And you just have to make the best of what you've got.
Yeah.
This is all fascinating, and I am so grateful that you're here sharing this. So tell me a little bit about the book and what led you to writing that.
Yeah. Well, the books, what happened was that when I was younger, we were with my wife, and we start practice. We were invited to different dinner, different events, or whatever, and so I met different doctors, different politicians, lawyers, you name it. And
Mm-hmm.
so some of them, they were curious about me because they had heard a little bit about all the things I'm telling you, how it happened that you came to this country, you still have an accent, and you're a chief of surgery, or whatever. How did they, so there were more than one person who said, wow, Dr. Forcina, what you have accomplished is tremendous. You should write down. You should write down this. But it never occurred to me because of writing. I'm not a writer, whatever, writing down, whatever. I was so big trying to make a living,
Mm-hmm.
It never occurred to me. But eventually, when my granddaughter was born, and I retired. I live in Florida. And so what happened, I start to think about, and I start to write with a memory when I was a child, with my father used to talk to me and this and that, And so came to my mind, I say, I'm not, right now I'm 82 years old, okay? And my granddaughter is going to be in May next month 8 years old.
Oh wow!
When she is going to be a teenager, and they are difficult years. We have to make a decision. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, whatever, and sometimes make a decision that can affect for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Okay? So I wish I wrote this book dedicated to her because perhaps in the moment of despair and the moment she perhaps read some pages of this book because this book is all the desire to accomplish something in life and not abandon yourself. Perhaps maybe I can prevent or guide her. I didn't have a guidance. Maybe I can be the guidance for her to make a better decision.
I love that perspective too, because I feel like it's kind of what we talked about earlier. So many people would want to write a book, but look at this big mountain in front of them and all of the obstacles and go, that's really too hard. And instead you chose to focus on, well, but what if I could do something really great for this person that I care about and I could have a positive impact on her? Did that make the mountain any less big? Probably not, but it made it easier to climb, I imagine.
Yeah. You take a deep breath and you try one more step.
So what's the title of the book?
The American Doctor. And let me tell you how the American Doctor came about. Okay. First of all, during my father's youth, the beginning 1900, in the small town, like I said before, if you're a teacher, a professor, a priest, or whatever, okay? And in the summertime, there were no air conditioning, people used to walk in the street. And so what happened, like in the old Italian movie, you see the influential people, they're walking straight, and the people, the farmer or whatever, okay, they remove the hat, and they have respect, professor, good evening, there's that. Yeah. So that's already to be a professional was very important, number one. Now, it happened that my father died when he was 99 and a half. And my mother died when she was 95 because she got a stroke. Oh. What happened, I was notified. I used to see my parents every year. I used to go to Italy with my family or alone. So when my mother had a stroke and she was in the hospital, I suffered a lot. I suffered a lot because the social life system there. First of all, they put her in a room with another lady who had pneumonia, was coughing like.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, all right. So now I don't have to tell you, there were no screen in the window, flies. So and this is 150 kilometers south of Rome. I'm not talking about the middle of the Sahara Desert. All right. So anyhow, so now one day I used to go early in the morning and in the afternoon. And after I had lunch with my father, one afternoon I went there. Already came back. There was no parking because everybody parked. There was no parking space. It was a disaster. You park as you want. Sometimes they even block the ambulance, just to give you an idea. There's an organization. So already I was up to here. I got there, and my poor mother was paralyzed on one side. The intravenous was infiltrated. I mean, the arm was all swollen up, and the sheet was all wet.
Oh.
So I shut off that, and I called the nurse. Said, "Yeah, we'll take care." So now what happened? We'll take care. I'm anxious, and I'm used to the American care. I'm trained for that. And seeing this with my own mother, put yourself in my situation. All right. So I did wait, nobody. So I fix the IV flash, whatever. Okay, and when the nurse came, who did that? She started to argue with me. Well, you know what? She yelled and I yelled double. Because what happened over there, you see, they feel intimidated because they feel if you argue with the nurse, they're going to, the patient is going to, they're going to, you're going to suffer. So anyhow, so eventually she left, and after a while, a doctor came, and he apologized. And so from that day on, when they saw me, they used to say, "Il dottore americano," the American doctor.
That's awesome.
They knew that I was not going to take just because that's the system over there. It's so sad at that time. I don't know now. At that time, they will pay family there were there sitting there all day to wait for somebody to give a news about the care of the prognosis or the grandmother or the mother or whatever. So sad. So anyhow, so I was like a devil, like hell. So they knew me right away because I mean, listen, I have my ground. I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, my mother, the poor care, she ended up with the cubital ulcer, with a pressure ulcer in the back, and the feet, in the gluteal area. So now what happened, they didn't have a special mattress. I had to call my wife. My wife had to send the special mattress, had to send equipment, and had to send instrument, scissor and forceps. Yeah. So so what happened was that the lady took care of my mother, was an Albanian lady, Linda, wonderful person that took good care of my parents. So when my mother was discharged eventually, she had all this gangrene. I showed Linda how to do the debridement to remove all the dead tissue. And within a few months, she did such a wonderful job that everything healed completely. But you see, the care is that the person is paralyzed. If you live for hours in one position, that tissue is going to die. Yeah. So it had to be rotated. But that's the required care. And the care is not there.
Oh, man.
So all that put together, I mean, those days that I remember were hell for me. Were hell because I was in another. I would say I was in another country. But really, it was my country, but I was not the citizen there. So and the system is different, and whatever is tolerated, I couldn't tolerate it because and so I was in hell. I went through hell.
Yeah. Oh man, this is wow. What an incredible life. And I can't tell you how grateful I am that you shared all of this with me. I didn't know what to expect going into it, but I want more stories like this for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have a website or anything where people can learn more about you?
Yeah, you can go to salforcinaiol.com.
I'll make sure that they have a link in the show notes so that they can click on it easily. Thank you again for being on the show, for sharing such an incredible story.
It was a pleasure. I enjoy it.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.